Sheets with numbers on. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And what you need to do is to join the numbers in numerical order, as many as you can within that 30-second time frame. Okay, I have the stopwatch, you have the pen and paper. 30 seconds begins now. Moira Watson is our second speaker, and Moira will be taking an industry perspective on the labour market shortage. Okay, so just to introduce Moira. Moira is the manager of HBOS, and her role is leadership development. She is responsible for developing the capability of leaders within Bankwest, Capital Finance, Boss International and St Andrews nationally. Previously, Moira was a practitioner, senior manager and director within government and had a rich and diverse experience in state, national and international levels. As director of her own consulting company, her focus has been on assisting clients to initiate and embed innovations within organisations. Moira will draw upon her human resources expertise on how to overcome the challenges of the current labour market shortage. In particular, strategies on how to harness and capture the corporate intelligence of the existing ageing workplace population and the Generation Ys who are now having a positive impact by driving innovation and technology. Moira is committed to the creation of high-achieving organisations aligned with their strategic vision. And currently, Moira is finalising her PhD in business management and believes a key to organisation success is the development of learning leaders who are committed to innovation. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Moira Watson.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Greg. As Greg said, this is really a global issue, and Neville's given us a Australia-wide perspective on the topic. I want to now share with you the financial services view, and I'm going to illustrate the story with the HBOS journey. So this is a private sector viewpoint. As we've heard, increasingly it's becoming more and more difficult to attract and retain the best people. Nationally and especially in Western Australia, we're operating with very low levels of unemployment. As an employer, finding the right employee at the right price in this market is often difficult. It's really a case of, are they breathing? Do they have a pulse? It's certainly a supply-side market. To attract the best people, you need to have a strong employment brand, and you have to have a rem and ben system that recognises achievement. In our case, we're not the Macquarie Bank, so money is not our thing. So our focus is on development opportunities. We're finding that as older workers stay or return to the workforce, that there's generational differences occurring. We recognise that we need to respect those generational differences, and we need to have workplace policies and practices that actually support a diverse workforce. HBOS Australia. How many have heard of HBOS Australia? Can I have a show of hands? Oh, so we've got some market penetration. HBOS Australia is a fairly young company, but it's sitting on some very old foundations. HBOS A is part of HBOS PLC, which was formed in 2001 through a merger of the Halifax Bank, which is a large financial institution in the UK, and the Bank of Scotland, which was a 300-year-old clearing bank. HBOS PLC is one of the world's largest financial services institutions in the world. It's got over 25 million customers, which is more than the population of Australia, and it has around 75,000 staff, so a major bank. As West Australians know, Bankwest was established as our state bank, as a government instrumentality, as the WA Agricultural Bank in 1895. In 1995, Capital Finance was established in Sydney by the Bank of Scotland as a provider of personal business and property finance products. Also in 1995, Bank of Scotland International was established in Sydney as a provider of corporate lending. Then in 1998, the Bank of Scotland established St Andrews Insurance in Perth to look at providing general and investment-related products. Then in 2003, HBOS in the UK bought out the remaining shares of Bankwest. And at that point, HBOS Australia was formed through the integration of those 4 companies. Today, HBOS A is structured as 5 businesses, 5 brands, and has around 5,000 people. And in 2007, some of you may have read in the recent news that HBOS A has Australia's fastest growing retail bank and Australia's fastest growing business bank. So let's have a look inside of HBOS Australia. This shows you the age structure comparisons of the organisation, and you can see that comparative to the finance and industry, we're green on Gen X and Gen Y, up to that 45 point. However, we're well below in the baby boomer and well below in the veteran section. We had older workers in the formation of HBOS A prior to that. Bankwest went through a transition phase and actually had a project called Project Refocus, which saw a loss of a large percentage of staff. With the integration, we found a number of other people left, and as a result, that corporate memory has disappeared, and quite a wealth of knowledge and expertise has gone with those people. And this is a real issue for us. We're in a shrinking talent pool, and we need to have better knowledge management systems in place. So the company's investing in IT infrastructure and also concentrating on succession planning. So we're looking at succession planning initially. In the last 2 years, it's been at the senior levels. We're now cascading that down through the organisation. So beginning to recognise this need to have people who can move in to positions as others leave. We're developing a diversity strategy that acknowledges that baby boomers will get our business booming, and we realise that we need to tap into that pool of talent who's actually over 55, you know, the rich, the retired, the restless. What do we do about this? How do we manage this? We actually capitalise on our brand. So some of you may have seen ads like this. The one on the left is focusing on HBOS Australia. The one on the right promotes Bankwest. Depending on the market strategy, we highlight either of the brands. We're quite unique in the financial services sector. We've got a multinational parent, we're a national company, and we have the opportunity for people to work in 5 different businesses. So for Gen X and Gen Y, who regularly change their jobs, they could in fact spend 3 years in each of our businesses and have spent 15 years in our company. This is a great advantage that we're only now beginning to capitalise on. Some generational expectations. As you've seen in HBOS A, we have the spread of generations. We're predominantly Gen X and Gen Y, around 78%, and we've got less of the others. This presents some interesting challenges. In structuring our development of people, we're becoming more conscious of the different needs, and we're actively seeking to engage our leadership in collaborative learning. And we emphasise coaching and partnering as the way to go. We're recognising the importance of technology, and we're wanting to leverage it better to establish learning networks. The way we do that is what we call a pathway, to find your own path. And this is concentrated on what we call our leadership commitment. And that represents our corporate culture. It sets out the behaviours that our leaders need to have in order to develop and to lead the business. Its intent is that people are inspired, that they have the freedom to act, a clear sense of purpose, they feel part of a team, and that they are led, developed and rewarded fairly. They also have a sense of pride in the work that they do. People do not have to be in a formal leadership position to have this apply. If you like, this is the DNA of the organisation. To take that down a level, the leadership commitment is structured on lead, shape, build and deliver. And each of these identify the key characteristics of leadership in HBOS A. We're wanting to create leaders who are able to plan and to differentiate the business. We want to ensure that we're building capability for the long term. The leadership commitment determines the role models across the company, and we're keen to identify innovators and harness their energy in taking us forward. Now, the leadership commitment is used in our development processes and also our performance management. And this year, we're looking at embedding it further through the organisation so that it's a cradle-to-grave approach. One of the things that we use is a 360 development tool where people do a self-assessment, and 9 of their colleagues also undertake that assessment, so a manager, subordinates and peers. And that's linked directly to our leadership commitment. Currently it's offered to our senior leaders, and we're rolling it out through the organisation this year to our middle and our frontline managers. We also have processes for developing different levels of leadership, and we believe this is a key to attracting and retaining people. So we offer leadership developments for the frontline leaders, the functional leaders or middle leaders, and our senior leaders. We also offer a program for emerging leaders, the Accelerated Development Initiative. These programs are available across the group, so across all 4 companies or all 5 businesses, and they're all supported by training in particular things like sales, services, compliance. We recognise that for our Gen X and Gen Ys, ongoing development is required, and in fact it's expected. And this framework aims to develop our people so that they are innovatively able to lead the changes that we require for the growth strategy of the organisation. HBOSS is continuing to grow across Australia, and we want to attract the best people who have strong leadership capability. And to do that in today's market, we recognise that we need to offer strong employment brands that encourage potential employees to select us in preference to others. In the financial services industry, movement across the organisations is very common, most common after the 31st of March when bonuses have been paid. We use our networks to target key people, so headhunting occurs, because we want those people to be part of this company and the company's story, and we want them to deliver the results that are innate. To retain them, we're looking at an innovative culture, so moving from a traditional concept of what is a bank to one where there's energy, excitement, enthusiasm, touching on the things that Neville raised about what engages people. And we're aiming for our leadership commitment to continue to focus on developing leaders who are learning leaders and who are committed to innovation. And that's our story, and that I hope is an insight for you. Thanks.
It's interesting, a lot of organisations are definitely having to be much more flexible. There's a number of organisations that I've worked with, and one in particular, out of 120 people that work in the organisation, nearly 60 to 65% of that organisation is over the age of 50. So what's interesting is this company has been going for 125 years, with 60% of its organisation looking at retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to have a major impact, not only on internal customer service, but also external customer service. So some of the key innovation initiatives that it's looking at is knowledge-based management systems and customer management systems as well. Because what it's actually identifying is that not only is their organisation changing, but also too their customers are changing, and they have to identify the emerging future leaders of the Generation Ys who will be replacing their key contacts. So, Maura, thanks a lot for that. I thought it was great. Now, back to the audience participation. On that sheet that you originally had, if I can just ask you to turn it over but not to join the numbers. All I'm going to ask you to do is to draw a vertical line between numbers 21 and 32. Okay, it's just draw a vertical line between numbers 21 and 32, and it's just a bit of a tease until the end of the forum. Okay, so let me introduce the next speaker. The next speaker is Tony Noonan. Tony will be focusing on a workplace perspective in regards to the labour market shortage. And Tony is the Group Manager for Human Resources for Macmahon Holdings Limited. Tony graduated from Melbourne University as a microbiologist and a biochemist and joined the Victorian State Rivers and Water Supply Commission. He later then took positions which included a principal personnel advisor for Hammersley Iron in the Pilbara, where he was involved in the full range of HR, community and training activities during the initial all-staff era following the bitter union disputes of the 1980s. He returned to Perth in 2001 as a Group Employee Relations Manager for Alinta, prior to his position as Group Manager Human Resources with Macmahon Contractors. In his role, he has the primary responsibility for all human resource issues in this rapidly growing Western Australian-based company. As a human resource specialist, Tony will provide you with pragmatic information and examples of how to motivate the ageing workplace population whilst dealing with existing labour market shortage. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Tony Noonan.
Thanks, Greg, and good morning, everyone. I'm not going to talk too much about the detail of the labour shortage. I think that scene has been set, and we have a good understanding of that. Nor will I labour particularly the differences between generations, because I think that's also been covered fairly well. What I want to talk about this morning, though, is how Macmahon grapples with the interplay of those issues in this particular environment, which is a particularly unique one. Just to start with, I'll just say a couple of things about Macmahon, because it'll give you some sense of where I'm coming from. And certainly in the tale that Neville spoke about, I do hope it was one of our managers that pinched that truck driver. We do try and... it's sort of the environment that I work in. Macmahon's is the largest Australian-owned contractor based here in Perth, TED offices here in Perth. We've got about 3,000 employees around Australia, and essentially in two businesses. One's contract mining and the other's civil construction. So it's a very dynamic environment. We are expected to put together a workforce, get it into a particular place to do a job where either a government instrumentality or a private enterprise doesn't feel that they can do that or want to do that. So it's very dynamic, very fast moving. And that'll set the scene for some of the things that I want to talk about. I guess the theme that I'm going to work towards is what is it that we have to do to make sure that as we go through this transition from baby boomers to Gen X, Gen Y, whatever comes after that, that we don't lose what it is we've built into our various enterprises. Now, Macmahon has its logo. If you ever look on our website, it says, "When experience counts." And we've got a number of people who have had 30 plus years with the company, most unusual for a contractor. And we really value long service with the company. And when I look around at the company, those people are in all the positions of power. They set the tone for the company. But they're increasingly the minority. And that's the tension that I want to talk about. So we've got a group of people who their value set and work ethic is based around, I'll be rewarded for hard work over time. If I put in and I'm loyal and I'm committed and I do the right thing, then I will get my fair rewards. I use the expression up there, you can set and forget them. You know what they will do. They will be there tomorrow and next week and next month. You can pick up the phone and say, I want you to go to the other side of Australia and do X or Y, and without any further thought, you know that that will happen. They're really easy to manage. They're predictable. But they're not going to be there And the slide that I think it was Neville had showed that pretty graphically. People like myself are a disappearing group in the workforce. The bit we've got to be able to do is to capture the knowledge that they have and the experience. Now, they're a group of people who typically work well in teams. They've been brought up on that concept of teamwork. But the rest of our workforce and the group that's coming through have a different mindset. They want, the old expression, they want it all and they want it now, or yesterday would have been better. That's all very good, but certainly I think in your businesses and certainly in mine, employee turnover, this revolving door syndrome that we've currently got, does hurt our business. It's not just the direct cost, that's expensive enough. And certainly in my business, every time we change over a person, you can guarantee the new person will cost more than the old one did. It's pretty rare that you actually hire someone for less than the person who left. So you have an ever-escalating cost base driven by it, but you also lose knowledge and understanding and experience that goes out the door. Whether it's 1 year or 20 years worth, they take something with them. And that is a cost to the business. Very hard to put a dollar figure on it, but it certainly costs. And in Australia at the moment, and certainly in the field I work in, they're actually business-threatening costs. The ability to deliver a competent set of people to a client is what makes us money. If we can't do that, we go to business. Might have been doing it for 40-odd years, but it can all end tomorrow if for our major clients we can't deliver the people that they require on time, where they want them, when they want them. And at the moment, people can vote with their feet. There are the traditional golden handshakes. We were talking at the table here this morning about, the days when if you worked for a bank, you had a very cheap loan. That was a major hook in keeping you where you were. There are very few hooks now. We have the usual golden handcuff sort of arrangements of share schemes and financial incentives. But again, in my world, sign-on bonuses, fees for paying out, whether it's 457 visa costs or the money that someone will lose on their share options by jumping ship, those one-off upfront cash costs aren't a big impediment to hiring a person. So equally, they're not a big hook in keeping them in your organisation. Dollars are very easily dealt with. So you've got to look at some other things that are going to help you keep people in your organisation. So what are some of the things that we do at Macmahon? Well, certainly we do offer competitive rates of pay, and you do need to be in the market, as we say. And in the market's a pretty changing environment. Best guess at the moment is that probably the market that I operate in is rising in the last quarter, probably about 4.5%. Year to date, generally across the board, it's probably heading towards 10 or 11%. It's a very hard market to actually know, and it's not an area you want to be the market leader in. The hygiene factors. We have people who we ask to go and work away from home for extended periods. That's great, people get flexibility. If any of you have been to Perth Airport between 5 and 6:30 in the morning, you'll get an appreciation of the number of people in Perth who commute to work. It's a very large number. It is also an absolute pain in that